Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Healing Vibrations. And this is the podcast that is aiming to change the perspective of illness, to see it as a gift. And this evening, I'm very excited to be joined with Mercedez Calleros, who is a living your best life coach. And I've got a bit too much sunlight coming in. Obviously, it's not the evening. This is a pre-recorded show. And who I've invited into this space to talk about her experiences with illness and what that actually means, and also what is within our control that we can do to readdress the balance of illness. And I want to talk a little bit about actually illness actually is balance a little bit skewed. Well, that's my opinion anyway. So hi Mercedez, welcome.
Hi,
Tell
Gina.
us a little bit about yourself, please. And
hi, Gina.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate having a platform to talk about our miraculous and magical bodies. I'm Mercedez, and I've been doing body work and working with people for just short of 30 years, coming on here soon. And I absolutely just love working with people on a path to health and just better living. It's one of the things that drives me to get up and go every morning, is knowing that there are people out there that need some guidance in their healing journeys. We are all healers. I let people know this. I remind them that, in short, it's like what happened the last time you cut yourself, or, that cut usually for most of us will heal right off the bat there, and we don't really do much about it. So we are all healers. And it's just a matter of knowing that, embodying that, and having that mindset, which Gina and I will talk a little bit more about as we go along here. So I also like to let people know that I am not someone who is living with a chronic illness or disease, and haven't, knocking on all the beautiful wood in this room, living in debt, that haven't gone through a illness type thing or like that. But I speak from my many years of experience working with people who go through all sorts of health issues and challenges, some that are corrected, and some that get better, and some that clients are learning how to manage better. So we can go from there, because I do love this subject. It's a very close one to my heart, because I truly believe there's so much or so many healing tools and so many healing guides, mentors, and people who, like myself and Gina, open ourselves up to be there for other people who want to feel better and live healthier lives. So let's talk.
Let's talk. Well, and I think when you think about the balance, because I think by the time that you've been diagnosed with a chronic illness, or something like myself with MS, I think by the time the diagnosis gets there, and it takes some diagnosing as well. It's not an easy thing. You don't just get a blood test and it gets diagnosed, and some people it takes years to get diagnosed. But actually there will have been little symptoms before that we maybe didn't take notice of. And I don't think, or certainly my experiences, we're not taught ever to, there's got something wrong with your body, let's listen into the body, let's listen to what it's got to say, and also the idea of putting our needs at the top of the pile. Because yes. I think if anything, having MS is forcing me to do that, to make sure that my own self-care and my own needs really are important, are more important than anything else. And I have children, and I have a family, and I have a dog, and all the rest of it. But actually, they can't be properly looked after if I'm feeling rubbish.
Exactly. Beautiful points. I love that you brought in the having that, being taught to be more observant and aware of how our bodies are feeling as we go about our daily lives. It is one of the, and I was trying to remember because I don't know them all off the top of my head, but there are 6 stages to dis-ease in Ayurveda. And the first stage is exactly what you're talking about, is when someone notices that, or, that something's just not quite right in me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us, especially in Western societies, more civilized societies, have lost that intuitional awareness with our own bodies. We're also taught to be dependent on our primary care physicians, our doctors and their nurses, who once were like in our beds, or parts falling off or not healing, and things like that, is when we usually go to the doctor, and they will let us know at that point what is wrong with us. One of the first things I like to start people on is, if you don't do a yearly blood test, that right there is a wonderful tool to use, just to find out, like, what's going on inside of your body that you don't know about. If you're running low on minerals and vitamins, and you're not noticing the little cues that your body's giving you. For instance, if you're not a reader of your tongue, if you can read your tongue, you would know when you're getting less minerals or vitamins. You would have a little bit, have a little bit more of an inkling that maybe you're not digesting all your food at night, or where it's affecting you in your gut, in your heart, in the lungs. So just knowing those little things, those are all things you can do at home on your own, and not to make us all hypochondriacs. But when you have a sign show up like that, it's not about, oh no, I must run to the doctor and get some type of medication. It's actually the body saying, oh, there's a chance something's not right here right now. Let's correct it, so that, we don't have to go to the next stage, and then to the next stage, and the next stage, and the next stage. So, yeah.
And even I think sometimes, and I know it might sound a bit strange if somebody has not done it before, but even just asking the body, because I quite often speak to my clients and say, well, what is that symptom trying to tell you? And the majority of the time they come back with an answer.
Yes.
It's not like people don't know. And definitely with my, my walking, my challenging with walking, it is to slow down. And I am still struggling with that one. I'm learning how to do that more, and, enjoying that more, I guess. But it takes practice, because, we're used to doing things the way that we have always done them. And that gets like muscle memory, doesn't it? We're in our pattern, we're in our habits. We just do. And what is it, something like 95% of our actions on a day are driven by our subconscious programming. Right. And our subconscious programming is subconscious. We don't know about it, we're not consciously aware of it. And,
right. But that subconscious too, at the same time, is taking in everything that's happening in and around you, the colors, the sounds, the textures, the temperature, what was said, how it was said. It's like taking everything in. So we are being affected by everything that goes on around us. But to be able to, like you're saying, to be able to slow down and to be able to pay attention to this, this that we are, as the Clarissa Pinkola Estes, the author who wrote Women Who Run with Wolves. I love that she calls this our consort. This is your consort. You came in with this body. Without this body, you're just a soul out there.
and you can't do anything. You can't do
Right. So to be able to be aware and intentional about what we're doing with it, and how we do with it, is surely very important to do. And mindset, as you're talking about, our mind is incredibly like that driving force for that trance that we go into, right? Because we're so routine into our things. And we might think things are a little bit different, but if you sit down and really take a look at like what you do every morning, you will find that you've dug yourself a pretty deep groove in I get up on the right side of the bed, I drag myself to the bathroom, I do my bathroom bit, I brush my teeth. Sometimes you wash your face, sometimes you don't. Some people do, some people don't, some people take showers. So what is that groove that you've gotten into? And, as human beings, we thrive on growth, on the expansion. We all contract, but we always thrive on the growth. If we get stuck in contracting and then not really expanding, and more contracting and not really expanding, we're just creating this tighter ball of ourselves and of our immediate worlds. It gets smaller and darker, smaller and darker, smaller and darker. It's like really what you'd like to do is contract, figure things out, what you're going to do next, plant some seeds, and then expand. And it's like, okay, now, how much further can I go? And not that we all have to reach the moon and the stars. I think a lot of times I just really like to tell people, because it's certainly my truth, I had to learn that I'm not here to save the world, but to contribute to the world. And what's my contribution? What I find is a lot of times it's just my voice. So it's not about going out and being Superwoman, but just about being myself and being authentic and sitting in that space. And as we're talking, making sure that I make myself the priority in my world so that I can be available to all the other that's out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you were talking about, contracting or contracting in, it just, what I really wanted to do was sort of breathe it out. And what I've been learning and practicing recently is the power of breath work. And this is something that is up your street as well, isn't it, really, with regarding to practicing. And it sounds crazy to practice to breathe, because obviously we all breathe every day, because otherwise we wouldn't be alive. But to actually breathe and allow the breath to sort of fill up the whole body is a whole different way of breathing.
Right. And to practice, and as adults, to play with it is what I was going to say. As adults, to play with the breath, to learn that it's so much more than just a breath in and a breath out of chemical exchange, right? It's actually in yoga, sister science to Ayurveda. In yoga, you're taught to balance the breath with your body movements. This is what the movement of yoga is all about. So as you move, you breathe in. As you hold the pose, you breathe out into the pose. So you're breathing in, you're contracting the muscles as you move them, obviously, right? When you think about it scientifically. And then when you're in the pose, as you breathe out, you kind of relax into the pose. So, marrying or uniting your body with your breath. Or you could even just sit in pose and breathe in and breathe out and experiment. What's it feel like if I sit for 30 seconds? Set your timer, 30 seconds. What if I just sit here for 30 seconds and just breathe in and out of my nose? What do I feel like after 30 seconds when that buzzer goes off? Just sit and just feel like what's going on with the body. Where is it tingling? Where is it feeling more alive? And then go 30 seconds with the mouth. Timer goes off, then just kind of feel into it. Now, where's the buzzing? Now, where's the aliveness, and notice that there is a big difference between breathing through your nose and breathing through your mouth. Then you can practice with the
I was just going to say, you can do
the nostril breathing,
because that's meant to be really good as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So as I say to people, it's like, as adults we get to play You know, we didn't get to do this when we were younger. Teach the kids. Teach your kids, you know, play with your breath, check it out, see how you can use it for, you know, use it for good, not for evil. You know,
your
so
superpower.
Yeah, you know, what if you just breathe to the top of your lungs? You know, there's so many ways you could go, you know, just breathe to the top of your lungs.
Well, even just
How
as
does
you're
that
talking
feel?
here, I'm sort of experimenting with my breath and yeah, doing some stuff, and it definitely calms you down, doesn't it? And re-energizes you as well. I think if you just to do 2 or 3 breaths, big, you know, big full-on breaths where you're really filling your whole body up and holding it and play, like you say, playing with it. And what if I let it go in little bits or quick bits or slow bits? And
Yeah. Or even in those moments when you're feeling really full and there's a lot going on and the overwhelm's going, you know, the overwhelm is getting at you and all that stuff. And like, people usually say, take a breath. And it's like, you know what, in those moments, you're so full, maybe you really can't take a breath.
yes, I haven't got time to breathe.
Well, it's not even, you know, it's not about taking it, it's about letting go. So rather, you know, if you can take a breath, but you know what, focus on letting the breath go.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
How's
like
that feel?
be a balloon. Yeah. And just let it and feel like, okay, what's that feel like? You know, and you'll soon find, you know, your brain's no longer thinking about what it was just thinking about.
Yeah. And of course, breath work is something that everybody can do. That doesn't cost any money at all. You can do it anywhere. So I'd really encourage people to start playing with their breathing if they haven't done anything like this before. And even if it's just counting, how long can you hold your breath in? How long can you hold it out? And it's probably different. You know, it's more comfortable at one side than another side, maybe, which is interesting as well. And just to notice.
Yeah. So, and I love that you just said count your breath, because that's another, you know, there's so many breathing exercises and different tools and stuff. And that's one of them. I think it's called box breathing.
Yes.
You know, so as you breathe, so breathe in, draw the line up, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Yeah.
You know,
And then you
whatever
can
it is that
count
gets you.
3, 3, 3, or 4, 4, 4, or 6, you know.
Exactly. As a child, I remember I taught myself a breathing exercise. I didn't know it was a breathing exercise, but it was just literally just my heartbeats, because it was usually pounding pretty hard. So, you know, to my heartbeat, to try to slow it down, it's like, okay, 5 heartbeats in, 5 heartbeats out, or whatever the number was in the moment, you know. So just even, tuning into the heart, you know, heart breathing, just tune into the heart and just breathe with your heart and notice how you can slow it down, and you can quicken it as well.
Right. Okay.
You know, we have control over that.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching who have high blood pressure and always get tripped out, you know, when you have to go to the doctor and get your high blood pressure checked and stuff, it's like, oh, you know what, give yourself a break, because when you go in that energy and just knowing, oh, I just know they're going to put that thing on me and it's going to be high. I just know. Well, you're creating it in so many ways, you know, your mindset, first of all, with the thoughts going through your head. And what happens is that the body has to follow it. It wants to please what the brain is thinking, the mind is thinking. So it actually will quicken your pulse and, you know, get your high blood pressure up, you know.
Like
so
a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, isn't it?
Exactly. So, you know, the next time you have to do that, just sit for a minute, and concentrate on your breath, and then take the blood pressure. You know, you get really good at it after a while. So practice, you know.
I mean, you've spoken a couple of times about Ayurveda. So tell us more about this to the people that don't know what Ayurveda is.
Yes. Okay. So Ayurveda, it's spelled Ayurveda. It comes from East India, and it's a teaching. It's not a philosophy. It's not a cult. It's a teaching, and it goes side by side with the teachings of yoga. Ayurveda means Ayur is living and Veda is book. So it's the book of living. And I love that because it's not the book of life. It's the book of living. It's the 3D thing. And it's been around, like I said, for 4,000 years. In recent years, 10, 12 years, they've actually been proving by research and study a lot of the things that Ayurveda has already known. And Ayurveda will, the thing it latches onto is our digestion from the moment you put something into your mouth, input to its output, elimination. So if your digestion is off in any way, it will let the Ayurvedic practitioner know, or someone who's versed in Ayurveda know that, you know what, there's something going on in the body by way of what you're putting into it, or maybe your mindset, maybe something you're putting on it, or being around your environment. So to be able to check in on all that kind of stuff, to promote just good health, better health, and just a vibrance of, you know, living, which is what we're here to do.
And it's quite interesting because you've been working with Ayurveda for a while, haven't you? And that's almost just gives you the foundation of a lot of your work.
Yes.
But I haven't really gone on that path. I've heard you talk about it, and I've heard people talk about it, but it's quite interesting how, when I think about my you know, the self-audit that I've created for the healing vibrations, it covers 33 areas, but actually it's probably pretty similar. It's and I suppose Ayurvedic is, maybe I've just caught on something that was there all along.
Yes. And you know what? I think it's lovely that you just did that, because this is what our truth is. When you should start sincerely asking for answers and being curious about, like, oh, well, what really with that, you know, and what if I did experiment with this? And that answers will come to you. And it's for me, what I've learned is, it's like when you can open yourself up like that, then things can pour in, and ancestral knowledge can just come to you. You don't have to read it in a book. You don't have to go learn it from somebody else. You know, when you start tapping into curiosity of, like, oh, what happens if I do this? Ancestral knowledge will start channeling through you and saying, well, what if you do this?
And actually get, because, well, we're not taught, are we, to listen to our bodies?
Not most
of us. Not at all. You know, we're in a we're both living in society that, like, tells you when you get ill, you go visit the doctor run some tests, they tell you what's the matter with you, and then they give you a pill that fixes it, which of course, when you've got a long-term thing, the pill doesn't fix it. It may or may not help with the symptoms, and may or may not cause other things. So it's do you think times are changing a bit? Do you think people are learning to listen more to their bodies, and or what do you think?
I think that with this last health challenge that the whole world has gone through, I think some people have woken up to the fact that we have a lot of control, actually, over our health. Right, as far as our immune, well, the whole gambit goes, but really our immune system, our immune system was built to fight things off. We have to happen to have a healthy immune system so that it can fight things off. One of the challenges is that we are by majority, like, the most comfortable generations of all the generations. There is so much for us. And granted, I know that there are people out there that don't have and that are struggling and whatnot, but for the most part, you can be in a building and in a room, and you can pretty much have everything you need to be comfortable. You know, even the temperature can be comfortable. We've gotten so comfortable that we've forgotten how to challenge ourselves, just kind of going back to that expansion and contraction thing, you know, that we won't come outside of ourselves to get uncomfortable.
Yes, and it's that whole being uncomfortable thing. This is
Yeah.
this. Well, I say just restarted. I haven't had one this morning, but just restart the whole idea of cold showering. Because this is something, if nobody, if or cold water in any way, shape or form, and if that sounds abhorrent, then yeah, I totally get that, and it is very uncomfortable. But actually, if you stood under a cold shower for a minute or 2 minutes on a morning, then it's amazing how much more alive you feel afterwards, because it's like your body has gone through that discomfort, and it's just, and it just, in fact, the longer you can stay in it, the more alive your body feels afterwards. Definitely.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's not just a mindset thing, it's a literal physiological thing that happens to the body. So it's too long. It's like a whole different conversation to go totally into it, but just like on the basics, literally, as soon as that cold water hits, and you stay in it long enough, it will start going from your smaller, lower, far away limbs to your core, and that's really like if you were to jump into the ocean, like I know you've done too in the cold water. Yeah, that your blood will immediately, like your body goes, uh-oh, we are in trouble, we're in cold. And what's most important is our heart, our lungs, our intestines, everything we have in here is what will keep us alive. Our limbs can go. So that blood will rush to our core, right? To keep us alive. Yeah. So that's what's happening. That's why you feel like whoosh, because it's like all of a sudden you're getting this rush of blood coming into all the vital organs. So yeah, that's what's happening. Yeah. And when you come out and you start putting some nice warm oil on yourself, and rubbing it in, and that brings the blood back into the limbs and stuff, and lets the body know that, what, we can relax now.
Yeah, but it does feel good, and I think there's something psychologically as well about, I've done something really uncomfortable first thing in the morning, which means then we can do hard things. That whole concept of actually, I stood in a cold shower for 2 minutes and I didn't die.
Yes.
And actually I felt good as a result of it. It doesn't make it like I'm desperate to get back in there again, but it's quite interesting. I don't like when I first started doing it, and I sort of sing my way through it to try and distract myself. But now I just sort of breathe through it. I'm a lot calmer, and it's not like such a stress response, I guess. It's more of a, okay, this is okay, this is
right. And and again, going back, it's like you marry your breath to it, and use it as breath practice. Wim Hof, H-O-F-F, Wim Hof, the breathing guy and the cold guy, so he uses his breath when he goes into that cold.
He does some real cold stuff. So if anybody's not come across him before, you might want to look him up. So W-I-M, isn't it? H-O-F-F. And he sits in buckets of ice and cuts out ice things in glaciers and all sorts of crazy stuff, doesn't he? But and is found he can teach people how to manage the cold. And I think he's been in, hasn't he, broke records and stuff for how long he can stay in cold places, because where he should be dead apparently according to science, but he's not. He's doing it. So
that, and he's also proven it on the whole other end of it, because he's run through the desert. I think he did like a 24-hour just run through the desert, and with no water.
Wow.
Not drinking water. So, and he's alive to talk about it. So here's this. So cycling back to, again, because I want to make sure people understand, it's a mindset. So why did Wim Hof decide to go jump into all this ice cold water?
Yeah, quite indeed.
Right? It's it's like, what? So ask the question. Well, the reality is that he did it because he was in such grief over the death of his young wife. They had 2 young children.
Right.
What was he?
I didn't know his story.
Right. So he lived, I believe it was Germany. And he lived in a place where it was like walking distance to a park that had a river that went through it, a small river, running water, and it would freeze over in the winters. Well, it was winter time and he was grieving and he was down at the bottom, and he decides to take a walk to this park in his sweats. It's freezing outside. He's in his sweats, barefoot, and I guess he stripped down to his shorts and jumped into the water, cracked the ice,
Wow.
jumped into the water and went under, he said, and just held his breath and just held himself under.
Wow.
And when he came out, he said, I'm not sure exactly how long he stayed the very first time, but when he came out, he said he felt invigorated and alive and like, you know what, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can do this. And every day after that, he would go to that river, crack that ice and get in.
Wow.
And sit in the cold water.
Wow.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So again, it was his mindset. He couldn't do it anymore, but something in his body said, no, we're going to figure this out, and went and jumped him into a cold river.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So he was, I believe he was channeling some ancestral messages
to say, actually, this will,
yeah, just do this.
Yeah.
Do this.
This will help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, experiment, listen to your bodies is so important. And then the mindset too. I really like people to know about Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's Dispenza. He's got a lot of stuff on YouTube. He's written books. The one I really like is Becoming Superhuman, I believe it is.
Oh, I haven't read that one.
Yeah. And he actually has a short video online. You can find it on how the mind changes, how fast the synapse moves in the head when you say, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore, I'm going to do this.
Right.
So yeah. So when people say, changing my, that's hard. It's like, well, it's really not.
It's because sometimes we can change it depends what triggers it, doesn't it? Because I must say, when I first started on my journey of empowering myself to heal, I suppose, when I read that book by George Jelinek and overcoming multiple sclerosis. So if any of you out there have got MS and have not read this book or come across it, check it out. I'll put the link in the comments below. Because he was suggesting that by changing you're having a plant-based diet high in omegas, so with fish as well, and keeping up with your exercise and your meditation. There was more to it than that, but they were the 3 points that I really took from it. And I was just so taken by the idea that actually this is better than doing something like this, is better than just sitting here waiting to get more disabled. I gave up meat and dairy overnight. It was that stronger, yeah, I'm going to do this, to interestingly, making meditation a daily routine was more challenging than changing my diet. Isn't that strange? Yeah, it's 5 minutes worth of silence every day is when you've got 2 young kids, is not impossible. Yeah, it is a challenge, but not impossible, as it turns out. You just have to communicate to your family what you need.
Right. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And that's a big part of it too. Is like, these last few years back, I had really hit on this big thing. And it's like people talk about and they voice, I don't know what's holding me back, or why do I limit myself, or I feel limited, or things like this. So it goes with many coaches, people who do this type of work. We usually do the work on ourselves before we actually go do the work. I think
you have to, don't you? You have to go through a transformation yourself.
So what I started to notice was that I too had this habit of, I had my own limitations in places, where I wasn't wanting to move the walls. And I found that I had some really great excuses that I see them now as excuses, but in the past they were so
valid
good.
reasons.
Yeah, that a lot of people, and people use them all the time. We use them all the time, and other people let us off the hook by saying, oh, I totally get it. Yeah, having 2 kids and meditating, that's never going to work. So yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, you tried. It was a good try. You want to go have a drink? Right? Usually. So
yeah, absolutely.
it's how easy we'll give up on ourselves and each other, and then give ourselves the out and go celebrate that we can do that together, in whatever ways we would do that. But so I stopped letting myself off the hook. I stopped saying, you know what, I can't do that because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't have time.
Or I don't have time. Or my partner's doing something totally different. I don't want to mess up the, what's going on here.
Yeah.
Or, or they get angry every time I do that. So I'm not going to do that, even though it's good for me. So it's their fault. I'm not feeling okay. So just things like this, that it really, like, you know what, really take an honest look at those and see, is it something you want to change? Is it something you want to challenge? Is that true? Is that really true?
Well, that's it. It's the whole getting honest thing. And that's in my program as well. Getting honest in 33 areas of your life. And that is a challenge, because like you say, we tell ourselves, I'm not going to say lies, but untruths maybe, just to keep us in that space. It's like our subconscious again. It's that ego, isn't it? Trying to keep us. We don't want to change. That'll mean change. That'll mean we'll have to do something different, and that's scary. And I think back in back in when we first evolved as human beings, doing something different could have been a threat, couldn't it? Going a different route would have been possibly dangerous. But of course, our environments change massively. Yet, us as human beings, we're still pretty much wired up the same way. Well, or are we? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and when you said something interesting, you said, we tell lies, and it's like, well, sometimes we tell little white lies, but I find that a lot of times we're telling things that are true for us. They are true for us, and that's why our friends let us off the hook. That's why our families let us off the hook. Because it is true. You have, you had 2 young boys, and not so young, and it was true that maybe, sitting down for 5 minutes wasn't the best ideal, because after 2 minutes, they'd come in and bother you, so it's not like you were lying, you were telling the truth, and people are like, yeah, totally get that. Thing is that we have to be more intentional and have more faith in the things we want to do for ourselves that are good, than in that changeable truth of the 2 young kids, because your 2 young kids are still young, but they're not as young as they used to be.
No, but even when they were young, there is, as it turned out, when I really decided, actually, this is important, I'm going to do it, all I had to do was communicate to them, actually, Mummy's going for a lie down for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, however long. And yay, most of the time it worked.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. So really, it was just, so it's those things that I'm asking people to take a look at now, and no judgment, because I was there for years, and not to say that it doesn't pop out of my mouth every now and then now, because, it's just about practice. Once you learn a lesson, once you say, oh yeah, I've learned that lesson. I think it's always funny that people think it's like, well, that's never going to happen to me again. Well, it kind of has to, because if you've learned a lesson, what's the best way to prove to yourself that, yeah, you did learn that lesson? Is by giving the opportunity to do it again. Most of the time.
Definitely.
So we don't get complacent. universe, it doesn't allow us to get too complacent if we're on the growth path. And I think that that's what the beauty of it is. And then going right back to what we were talking about earlier, the different stages of disease and stuff. So to be aware, just to become aware and become curious about who you are, how do you feel, what are you putting in, what comes out.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also I think, when I was saying earlier about 95% of our actions really are on the subconscious, it's this awareness of noticing, oh, that's what I'm doing. That's like you talking about the morning routine. Well, what is your morning routine? And just like, I guess the majority of people probably get to, the first 2 hours of the day and don't even really consciously aware of what they've done and what order they've done it in. And so it's worth just starting to notice and really look, oh, okay, what am I doing? I'm getting out of bed, then I'm going to the toilet. And I've started doing something like just cleaning my teeth with my opposite hands.
There you go. Yep.
Because that's like, I have to change it up. And even now I've been doing it for quite a while, but it still feels weird.
Different.
It still feels uncomfortable. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's the whole thing, is just get yourself a little uncomfortable, do it a little bit different, and it doesn't have to always be to like what we're doing, but even just your mindset. It's like, just be more intrigued about like, what are my first thoughts when I first wake up? What am I thinking about when I'm brushing my teeth or sitting on the toilet?
Yeah.
Or am I, I want to say interfering, but,
covering
stuff up by being on my phone or, reading
distracting.
Something. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Am I distracting myself with these other things?
Because we're in a world of distractions now, aren't we? Let's face it. They are all around us, all over the place. It's like, we don't want to focus on what's really going on. We can get distracted with screen upon screen upon screen upon screen.
Yeah. And all the stuff we have saved everywhere, right?
Yeah, things.
I'll get to that. Sure,
yes,
you
exactly.
will. Sure, you will. Yeah,
there's so much going on.
Yeah. So it's it's really important. With that said, to have a focal point. I just think it's really important to have a focal point, but even my Sadhguru, the gentleman I follow online, I love that he says, I don't care what you focus on. I just want you to focus on something all day. When you're focused on one thing, then you're being, you're being more yourself. You're being able to channel better. You're being able to be more contained, as when you're trying to do everything.
Yeah. So it's that being present in the moment, isn't it? That you mean by having a focal point.
Yes. Yeah. Be where you're at. Do what you're doing. That takes
practice. And I'll say that because I'm still practicing, and I'm not at a place of total presence all of the time, I find, but I'm getting more aware. I'm noticing, I'm being distracted, and trying more consciously, even just things like when I'm washing up or preparing dinner and things like that, because that could be a very easy, a distracting place to be.
Yes. And to be able to fill that up with because I was actually just listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza this morning, but to be able to fill those moments up, to be aware enough to notice when you go into the thought pattern, to be able to say, I'm going to pick the needle up there and I'm going to drop it over here in this new place. And what I really want to be, and what I really want to put my thoughts into right now is that, I just want to have a peaceful, loving day. So I'm going to imagine myself, finishing washing the dishes in a good mood, getting dressed or whatever, and just being peaceful, and to be able to do that with yourself. And so going back to what I was saying is that we do have so much more control over this than we think we do.
Yeah. And it's so what would you say to somebody that feels like they're sort of trapped in maybe a negative spiral or a situation that they're not happy with? You know, what is a way of starting off that change and becoming more aware?
I really like to start people that are in that chaotic place in just a like, I am willing to change. I am willing to change.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
and just start to become
a little mantra
willing
to
to see
yourself.
things differently. Yeah, and to say things like that, I am willing to change, to themselves. If you can't think of anything else in the world, if you're to the spiral and you're going in a downward way, you know, into the negative dark stuff, then yeah, pull yourself out by saying, you know what, something as simple as like that, I am willing to change.
Yeah.
Or you could say, I want to see things differently right now. I want to see things differently right now. I'm willing to see things differently right now.
Well, that's quite interesting because the idea of playing, you can play with that because it's all perception, isn't it? You know, you see a situation or a situation occurs. Is that a good situation or is that a bad situation? And actually, it's a situation. It's
a situation.
It's something that's happened. And actually, the way you perceive it is interesting. So to get curious about that, okay, well, why is it that that's pissing me off so much, or that's annoying me so much, or that's making me feel however it's making me feel, you know, and how, and even just playing with the idea of, well, if that was a good thing, what could it mean? You know, so back to the idea of illness being a gift, you know, because let's face it, nobody wants to be diagnosed with a horrible illness that's going to change their life and mess up their plans and stop them doing the things that they want to do and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But actually, if we looked at it and thought, well, if it was a gift and it was here to, you know, to give us something, what is it giving us? And I think, you know, from my own experience, once I sort of embraced that a little bit more, you know, with it's the MS that's forced me down a spiritual path. You know, it's the MS that's encouraged me to become a coach, which is where I met you, and we have these amazing conversations and all this sort of stuff. So, you know, it literally has changed my life, and, you know, for the better. It has changed it for the better. And I still can't walk properly, but that's okay because, you know, whether I can or whether I can't, it's possible to have a good life. And I think it's that perceptual change that we're trying to encourage people to see, because nobody's saying that your shit isn't shit, but actually it doesn't have to be. It's only
and it doesn't have to be all the time, you know, and because it's I can understand on an empathetic level what it would be like to be diagnosed with something like that or whatever. But I know that, some people, I've had them on my table. I've talked to them over the phone, you know, people with brain cancer.
Can I just say, when you have them on your table, Mercedes is also a massage therapist. I don't think we mentioned that, so it might sound a bit weird.
Body work,
on your table.
Therapy. Yes. And you know, and maybe they're terminal, you know, maybe they're in that crux where it looks really, really bad and they don't know yet, you know, and it's kind of hard to talk to that coming from a healthy place. Oh, you're going to be okay. You know, just be positive, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you know, you really kind of, you know, meet yourself where you're at. You know, that's, I think, the beauty part of that, and what you've been talking about, Gina, is like, you know, this is what's happening right now. This is what reality is for me right now. So how can I be in it and be in a place of growth and positiveness, you know, so that I can feel better, you know, if not physically, just here.
Well, this is it. And just and if it means if it just means lying down for a bit and just taking, you know, looking after yourself, that's a good thing, and that's to be celebrated, the fact that you've actually listened to yourself and It's
yes.
and it does take practice, because again, when you just like, we're not taught to listen to our bodies, we're not taught to put our needs first.
Right. And so, going back to, if you're living with other people, it's really important to be vocal with them in the sense of communicating to them what you need, what you want, what you're feeling. And then to remember that their reactions or responses is theirs. No matter what it is. So love and is always, for the most part, very accepted. But if anything else comes out of that, to just remember, that's their stuff. And as long as you're coming from a place where you're taking care of yourself, being sincere, and in a loving, compassionate way, communicating what you need to communicate, then you should be okay.
And again, and I know how challenging that is, because I was in a relationship for a long while where I didn't feel comfortable saying that, and to be honest, looking back on it, that wasn't him, that was me. Right. It wasn't he might have been a lot of things, but actually I think it was down to me not communicating, as opposed to him not hearing or listening or taking it on. So that's quite interesting.
I was just talking to a client the other day about just that. It's like something she said, I don't think it was, about wanting her husband to do the dishes or something. And, and she was always in her head thinking like, I'm in here doing this. Well, I could be doing that. And he's out there doing what he wants to do. Why isn't he washing the dishes? And one day she actually just said, one day she actually just said, honey, why don't you do the dishes? And he turned around, he said, oh yeah, I can do the dishes. No worries, I can do. And she, jaw on the floor, she says, I picked up my jaw. I walked into the sewing room because she just wanted to sit and sew. I walked into my sewing room and closed the door. And she says, oh my gosh, she says, all those years I've been like fretting over like,
it's not fair. He won't do that. He can't read my mind.
Doing the dishes. He has no issue doing the dishes. Or anything else she asked him, for a matter of fact, because she's tried now, But,
this is it. Now I've got this new, found, superpower. Oh, I ask and I get. Wow.
Exactly. So, it's
so if nobody's taken anything else from this recording, I would suggest that if you've got people in your life that aren't doing what you want them, ask them in a nice way. You don't have to be mean. Just say, please, can you do that for me?
Yes.
And see what the result you get.
Right. Yeah, no, I think we had a really great conversation today, and that it kind of, I like when conversations go in a cycle, and so we're right back to kind of where we started, where we have these miraculous bodies. We learn how to use them. For us adults now, we come to coaching sessions like this, or we go to people who will help us relearn how to be with our bodies and be more attentive, aware, curious. Those are really good words to walk away with if you haven't already caught on. So it was being, intentional, being aware about,
just writing it down so I can write notes underneath to remind people.
And curious. So, those are big takeaways right there, and that our mindset, so there's quotes, and it might be Naomi Judd that said, our bodies go where our minds, our bodies follow where our minds go.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Nice. I'll write that one down as well.
Yes.
Our bodies go.
Our bodies follow.
Follow.
Where our minds go.
Oh, nice.
Right. Nice. So if you're feeling crappy when you wake up in the morning, guess what kind of day you're going to have?
Yeah. So actually change that up. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom. You've always got so much wisdom, and we've covered loads of stuff on today's recording. So I'm going to go through my notes and mark them down. And I'm going to end with my usual meditation and leave you to get on with your day. So thank you so much. And
you are so welcome.
We will connect again. So Mercedes Calleros. So if anybody wants to get in touch with Mercedes, where can they do that?
they can do that right at Mercedez, spelled Mercedez, at Mercedez, same spelling, Calleros, Calleros, as in Sam.com.
Cool. I'll put that in the link as well.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Yeah. Perfect.
All
Thank
right,
you so much, Gina. It's always a lovely time with you. I love our conversations. So yeah, let's do it again.
All right. I'll see you soon.
Have a good meditation. Day. Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
So the rest of us now, I'll just guide you through a nice little meditation to finish off and to practice that breath work that we were talking about. So if it is safe for you to do so now, sit or lie with your back supported, not necessarily your head, but you can do. Feel your feet on the floor, or just notice how your feet feel. Just take a nice big deep breath in. And as you gently breathe out, bring your awareness to where your body is calling you. If there's any tingles, if there's any itches, if there's any sensations going on, just notice that playful curiosity we were talking about. Now we're going to do some of that breathing exercise to practice with your breaths. So I'm going to guide you through breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out gently and slowly for 4, and then holding for 4. Okay, so take a nice big deep breath in, hold for 4, and gently breathe out, hold for 4, and take a big breath in and hold, and breathe out gently, hold, 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 in, hold, 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 out, 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 out. Now just allow your breath to return to its natural way of breathing. But just notice how it's breathing. As it's slowed down, does your body feel different? Can you hear anything? If you've got your eyes closed, can you see anything behind your eyelids? Just notice. I really hope you've enjoyed today's session. Mercedes is such a wise character and knows so much about the body. She's been working with the body for years and has taught me so much. So I hope that you've taken some words of wisdom today and are looking forward to getting playfully curious and more aware about your body and what it is trying to tell you. This brings me to the end of episode 7. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll look forward to connecting with you next week. This is Gina Dallison from Healing Vibrations saying goodbye. Thank you very much.